Coach Henry.
First and foremost, how you guys doing? Hope y'all been having a wonderful day. Just to start off, right? Like I know that was brutal what you guys had to see on Saturday. And I think as a staff, as a player, like our goals going into a game, anytime you're going to a game like that, is to obviously go out there and be dominant and win the football game. And unfortunately, that did not occur, right? And you guys know I'm one of those guys. I'm never going to pass the ball. That is fully on my shoulders, right? Now, not having our defense prepared enough to go out there and execute. Okay, so I'm never in a blame game, right? It's some things we got to do better. Some things that I have to do better as a play caller, right? That was embarrassing and that was unacceptable. But the beauty about this game, what I love about this game, is it's such a microcosm to life, because you can have struggles in life and you can go through things in life, and lo and behold, once you get through those things, they make you a better person, maybe make you a better father, better man. And so it was a great learning day for our players. It was a great learning day for our coaches, right? Like when you got to watch film like that. I watched that game film like 5 or 6 times, and it was very, very hard to watch, right? But the reality of it is that you got to get better in a hurry, right? You got to tweak some things. You got to make the proper adjustments in a hurry, because we got a football team coming to town that doesn't care. They don't care who you got, what you got going on, who you played last week. They're a really good football team. And for us, we got to turn the page relatively fast, because we can't let last week's game or our previous game on Saturday affect how we play this Saturday. And so it's my job, obviously, as the play caller, to make sure that I prep our guys for that, and obviously get our mindsets on or get us in the right mindset to move forward with that.
Coach, when you give up a bunch of points like that, how much soul searching is there? How deep in the weeds do you get on things like the personnel decisions, scheme, and play calling?
Yeah, I think a bunch of things comes into play when something like that happens. But I think the beauty about this process is you can't forget what got you here. You know what I mean? And so we won 7 games in a row over the course of the last, right, from this year and last year, right? How does something like that happen? You know what I mean? You ask a lot of questions. There are some things that you obviously got to get correct, some things you got to tweak, and you got to tweak defensively to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think from a play calling standpoint, and a in-game adjustment standpoint, there were some things that I learned on Saturday, right? That I have to make sure gives us the best opportunity every single snap, right? Playing a team of Indiana's caliber and what they were doing. Okay, and so obviously we had a couple of guys go down, but I mean, for a score to get like that is unacceptable. That is what I will say is our guys did not quit; they kept fighting, which obviously I commended them for that. But there's no moral victories when you lose, fellas, right? You don't want to lose, and the great part about it is we get to move forward, and we're playing a USC team, in my humble opinion. They probably got some of the better skill in the country. I mean, all around the place, they do some really, really dynamic things. I'm facing another really good head coach and good play calling, Coach Riley. And so I got more than enough on my plate and things I got to get right to make sure we can go out there and have success.
Aaron, when you're as injured as you are in the second day and loss, Brett, in specific, how do you try to go around game planning that? And then secondly, if I could, are there any safeties on you cross-trained that could maybe help you at corner if any of these linger?
Yeah, this is all a part of off-season, fall camp. We try to move guys around, so if something like this does come up, that you can cross train them. Obviously, when you get banged up like we did, it's we're going to be fine. But I truly believe you gotta put guys in a position that that they can get us and get us not only through the game but execute the calls we got planned for them, right? And so making the call sheet a little smaller, tweaking some minor adjustments in how we play certain things, allowing guys to play to their strengths, right? Whether we have an older guy or a younger guy go in. So I think all this was part of things that we did in the offseason in preparation for a situation like this or a situation that occurred on Saturday. And so I am totally locked in. I'm excited about the guys that are going to be out there, and we're going to be totally fine in the secondary.
What can guys like Tanner and Mac learn from a lot of playing experience like that?
Yeah, I think just like the same guys who learned in 2023 when they had that obviously that those rough stretch of games and that rough season we had. Obviously, you don't want to go through the same mindset in terms of having that rough season, but it's a game at the end of the day. You just got to be better in your technique, your fundamentals. When you lose, you look at everything. I think sometimes winning makes us numb and blinded to our own success or failure. you know, and so you can have a tendency to like skip over the thing. But when you lose, especially in that capacity, you look at how you're getting the play call in, you look at how you're lining up, you look at who's lining up, you look at the things you did pregame leading up to that, the reps that you took during the course of the week. And so there has to be a complete refocus in how we do some things, because the same thing that allow us to play the way we did prior to that game, right? Or I believe are the same things and core foundation of who we are. Right now, obviously, there's some things that we got to tweak, but if you completely overhaul and completely like change what you do, you never had belief in what you were doing, right? Like teams lose games, unfortunately, right? We're gonna lose games, unfortunately. I don't want to lose games. I would like to go undefeated, but when you lose, you just have to be able to have change ups and tweak some of the things that you did so that can prevent you from continuing to lose. Right? I don't think you completely overhaul unless obviously your personnel dictates that. I don't think you completely overhaul, because that same thing gave you success in the past, right? It has to be a tweak here, a tweak there. And as coaches, right, we just got to believe in what we're doing and continue to pour that into our players.
Aaron, you signaled me 1 or 2 weeks ago about missed tackles. In your experience with either a player or a coach, how does that become contagious in your building, just like a virus, like it did again on Saturday?
Again, my high school head coach used to always tell me, right, the game of football, it either ends in a touchdown or a tackle. Right, I think we gave up 9 of them on Saturday, right? And when you are like, at the end of the day, fundamentals is at the core foundation of who we have to be as a program, right? We had 20 missed tackles. There you go, bingo. And we were playing a completely different opponent, right? So anytime you miss, you ain't gonna win a lot of games when you miss that many tackles. And so we just gotta continue to focus on the basic fundamentals that makes us a really good defense, right? And when you get away from those, or you lose sight of the importance of those, not to say that we have, right? It just makes you refocus and like really, really hone in on what you truly need to focus on. Because it was some play calls that for sure that I could have made better calls in better situations, right? But at the end of the day, it's about how do you tackle, right? How do you tackle? I think we gave up like 8 explosives, right? Run and pass game, right? Like, and at some point in time, tackles were broken in those explosive plays. You know, and so we gotta make sure we do a better job at tackling, and we will do a better job at tackling, because at the end of the day, no matter what the scheme is, no matter what the call is, right, you have to be able to tackle the ball carrier, right, or the quarterback or whoever's carrying the football.
When you want to bring up in the back end like that a little bit, how important is amping up the pressure a little bit? Is that one of those tweaks, just figuring out how to get a little more pressure?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. You got to be able to marry the two, right? I mean, we as coaches, I mean, we spend a insurmountable amount of time here watching film on our opponent and try to find out what gives them problems. You know, everybody can scream about pressure, but what happens if the pressure don't land? Right? Then you do you leave the secondary out of the cover, right? And then if you don't bring enough pressure and you drop 8, well, what happens if the quarterback runs around for a day and scrambles for a first down, right? Like, I think it's relatively easy to have all the answers once the game's over. But in preparation for that game, you know, like what is that team doing and how do they struggle per se, right? So I think you got to be able to switch it up enough to where you can keep them on their heels. It's just like I said last week, it is literally just like a boxing match, right? I think if you try to go for the knockout punch early on, I mean, you could land it based on who you are, but like you got to feel them out. You got to figure out what they're good at, because they're going into the game as well with some things that they do a little different, right? And some tweaks that they're going to have. And we have to make sure that our tweaks, right, are a little bit better than their tweaks, and where can I throw in change-ups based off of the look we're giving and the personnel that we have, right? Ideally, right, in a perfect world, would I like to go out there and play man-to-man all day? Absolutely, right? Like obviously you guys remember in 2022, we had a bunch of guys drafted, but the times have changed, right? I don't have some of those same guys, so I have to find a happy medium between making sure we got enough coverage, making sure we got enough pressure, right, and doing what I can to make sure I isolate guys to try to create one-on-one matchups. Again, I know some people see the game from the perspective of their guy or a guy up front or a guy on the back end. When you just look at a play calling standpoint, I have to take into consideration everything. You know, at one point in time, we were slowing down the run, right, in that game early on. Well, they start throwing the ball. Well, I gotta be able to kind of marry those two and find a happy medium to it, you know. And so I don't think that there's no perfect answer. At the end of the day, I don't care what you do. If you don't tackle well, it's not going to resort in a lot of good things. And that is strictly on me. Like, I take full ownership in that. Obviously, I could have put our players in a hell of a lot better calls, but we just got to be better overall.
What do you think more specifics stand out to you about USC, their strengths?
I mean, they're good all over the place, man. I mean, when you speak to that team, you know, obviously watching film on them, I just had flashes of Reggie Bush running up the sideline. I mean, their tailbacks are ridiculous. The quarterback is, like I've been telling you guys, I think Mendoza's NFL quarterback, Mensa's NFL quarterback, and this young man is, I mean, he's what they're asking him to do, and he's operating at a high clip, and he's throwing to some dudes out there like, I mean, this is another group of wide receivers that are problematic just from their speed, how they go up and get the football. I mean, they can cause a lot of chaos for a play caller like myself, because I mean, you talk about one-on-one matchups. I mean, it's no longer a 50-50 ball, right? A lot of their one-on-ones have been 90-10, and they've been winning the majority of them. So again, we got to have enough change-ups in our system, in our scheme, to try to make sure we can slow this team down. And they are a hard team to slow down, you know. And so obviously we're in the process of putting a plan together to try to limit them as much as we can. But at the end of the day, right, we have to focus on the basic core fundamentals of our program and what we do, right? And from a defensive perspective, just to remind you guys again, right, because I think in times like this, when you go through something like that, people and media and fans can forget this, right? I spoke to you guys about 5 pillars right before we started the season. I spoke to you guys about that last year, right? And pillar number 1 was passion, right? We got to be passionate every single snap we take, right? 2 was integrity, right? And I focused on my ring finger, right? We got to have integrity in our job and our responsibility, whether that's an A-gap up front or whether that's a coverage concept, right? The middle finger is toughness. Well, there is no better time to be tough than when you're going through something. Okay, obviously we went through what we went through on Saturday, and that was unfortunate, right? But everybody in this room, I would venture to say that you face tough times, and you're still here because of it. So you got to be able to learn from it, right? The most important one, in my opinion, what we talked about this week, is being selfless, right? The pointer finger. Anytime you face adversity like this, right, people can start to ask questions and worry about themselves, right, and forget about the plan. And we got to make sure we do a great job at coaches and bringing them back to the focal point, right? Like the game of football is about us. It's not about me. It's about us. And the last one is effort, right? Like we're gonna get this thing back on track. It was unfortunate, but it was a great learning mechanism, because, like I said earlier, it's such a microcosm to life. When you get knocked down or you go through some adversity, you don't roll over and want people to pat you on your back. At least not me. You talk about adversity, man. Yeah, we lost a football game. It fucking sucks. Pardon my language. All right, but nobody died, right? We're still here. We'll bounce back. We'll be good, right? I'm from Immokalee, Florida. You talk about adversity. I've been through some adversity, right? And I'm going to make sure this defense is ready and locked and loaded on Saturday to give all we can to USC, who's a really good football team.